design world by UWX and Design Co. So we've invited students, design students and alumni from the University of Waterloo and the University of California, San Diego to share their experiences working abroad from Norway, Singapore, Netherlands, Tanzania, and more. So during this panel, our speakers will talk about what it's like working in design internationally and discuss differences in work culture and intern culture abroad versus here in Canada and the US. Panelists will discuss the design processes, mental models, behaviors, and needs of users across the globe and speak from their own experience at a range of design companies and roles. So first, let's get started with a little introduction about UWX and Design Co. So my name is Vanessa. I'm the growth lead at UWX, and UWX is a student-run organization at the University of Waterloo with the goal of growing the student design community and empowering designers to support and inspire each other through community engagements like this event. If you haven't already, you should join our public Slack channel. The link is here, and follow our socials to keep up to date with all of our upcoming events and engagements and ways in which you can contribute to the community. And I'll pass it off to Jamin to introduce Design Co.
Cool. So my name is Jamin. I'm part of the media team and as the director of community here at Design Co. Representing a strong but scrappy design community at UC San Diego, our goal is to bridge the gap between young designers and the industry. Catch us at our various events such as many design-oriented career fairs and design-a-thons, as well as workshops and socials. We're super grateful to have this opportunity to co-host this panel with the amazing, and I mean amazing people at UWX, and we're happy that you're all here to join us today. So feel free to check us out on Discord and follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay updated with our future events. So now it's time to meet the panelists. So meet our batch of travelers who hail from San Diego and Waterloo and have wandered around the globe to sharpen their design skills. Joining us today, we have Alice, Aman, Giska, Gracie, Ishan, and Kevin. Let's let each of the panelists introduce themselves and share a little bit about their experience designing abroad, starting with Alice.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice. So I interned in Hong Kong, I think it was 2 years ago, and I was a product design intern. I guess a little bit about myself. I worked at Johnson & Johnson last summer, or the quarantine summer, and then I'll be working at Microsoft in the fall. And I come from UCSD and I study cog-sci design and interaction and poli-sci data analytics. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. So my name's Aman. I'm a student at Waterloo in systems design and engineering. I'm coming into my last year of my 5-year program this fall. I had a chance to be a product design intern at PlanGrid or Autodesk in the summer of 2019. You can see those pictures on the left there. And last winter, so 2020, just near the beginning of the quarantine, I was a product design intern at Cognite, which is a startup in Oslo in Norway. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Hi guys, my name is Giska and I'm currently a junior at UC San Diego, majoring in cognitive science, specializing in design and interaction. And the past summer, I actually got the chance to intern as a UI UX design intern in Kompas Gramedia, which is an Indonesian news media company. And as you can see from the pictures on the left, it is actually like the rooftop of my office where I get to like hang out and chill with my intern friends. And also just recently I got into a product design internship in OVO, which is a fintech startup. And I got to like work in a multicultural team environment in OVO and also worked from my hometown, Bali, which is the pictures on the right.
Hi there, my name is Gracie and I'm also a student at the University of Waterloo. I'm in my 4th year of software engineering at the university. And I guess I've had 2 previous design experiences. I think back 2 years ago, one was at Eden Speakerman in Singapore, and then the other one was also at Cognite as a product designer.
Hi, I'm Ashan. I'm a 2nd year at UC San Diego studying cognitive science. And before I interned at Nexperia Semiconductors in the Netherlands. And you can kind of see that weird angled building. It was called Jonker Bosplein 52. And it was the office where I stayed at. And I'm currently designing for a company called Demand Base, which is a B2B marketing company.
Yo, what's up? My name is Kevin. I am a new grad from Waterloo. I studied engineering there. And in the past, I also worked at Autodesk. I'm actually doing some work for them now, doing design and research work. And internationally, I got to work at a company called Jazza Energy in Tanzania, where I did mostly research work there.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for introducing yourselves. Just as an FYI, if you have any questions for panelists, feel free to ask them through Slido. We'll be taking questions, like crowdsourcing them in the last 10 minutes. So feel free to like send in your questions and we'll go through them at the end of the panel. And yeah, this is the event code, so feel free to do that on Slido. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started on the panel. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. And yeah, I guess we'll start out with the first question we have. So for Alice, or I guess we'll start out with Alice. Why did you decide to work outside of North America and what inspired you?
So for me, I think when I was younger, I had the opportunity to travel a lot and kind of get that international experience. But then once you get older, you want to actually like absorb yourself into a culture or into a different country. So that made me want to like solve problems in different parts of the world and like learn about different social issues all over the world that I would be able to solve with design and design research. So I think like after my first like official international experience besides traveling, like I got to teach English in Taiwan. So I think it taught me a lot about what I want to do in the future in a sense of what kind of makes life exciting and the things that you want to like apply from your work to like your into other countries. So that's kind of what inspired me to work in North America. So for anyone who wants to, even if you're just like studying abroad or working abroad, I really encourage it just because it'll get harder to do as you get older because you're going to be more tied down to a job or more tied down to like your community here in the US or Canada, wherever you are.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll pass it off to Gracie next.
Yeah, so at the University of Waterloo, we have like a co-op program. So during the course of like, I guess most people who go to Waterloo, you end up with 6 co-op terms. So that's like 2 years of work experience. And I thought that was a lot to do as an undergrad. So I had the privilege and I wanted to take the opportunity to use some of those to sort of explore other parts of the world. And I guess the choice to specifically work in another country or another continent was just to integrate a little bit into that society and see like how people go about their daily work, how they live, how they interact with each other. And I think that's something you only experience when you spend like more time at a specific location. I also thought that, learning how to navigate these things on your own, because I was there, the places where I worked, at least in Singapore, I was completely on my own. There's a lot you can discover about yourself when you're responsible for your own well-being. And I guess that's my motivation for working outside of North America.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll pass it off to Giska next.
Yeah, for me, like I think working or like even going to school abroad, like have like personally allowed me like meet so many new amazing people from different parts of the world, and like listening to their stories and like the culture or environment they grew up in have like made me like a better designer in a sense that like I now consider more dimensions when making the design decisions because like I was able to put more things into perspective after hearing all of those stories. So I like really recommend everyone to like try working abroad and really like understanding those different cultures to be able to become more of like a well-rounded designer overall.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll pass it off to Aman. What inspired you to work outside of North America?
Yeah, I think like Gracie kind of mentioned at the beginning about Waterloo and our co-op terms, one of the goals that I kind of set for myself early on was to try to explore as much as I can, both like in roles, but also explore new cities. So I kind of made it a goal to try going to a different city. I kind of got sidetracked because of COVID, but yeah, that kind of pushed me to explore new places and go somewhere new. And also to echo some of the other points, I think just expanding as a designer, seeing new perspectives, understanding how people think in different parts of the world, how different cultures operate, and also just seeing things like architecture is really inspiring to be in a new place. So yeah, there were a lot of reasons, and it was definitely really a really fun time.
Nice. Yeah, we'll pass it off to Kevin.
So for me, it wasn't really like the opportunity kind of just stumbled upon me because like I didn't go out specifically to look for this. Basically, the company like came to our classroom and presented, and we're like looking for like Waterloo students, right? And then I hadn't really like hadn't thought about it before, but when like I saw the opportunity, I was like, yo, that's pretty cool. So I decided to just like apply and give it a shot, and then just ended up kind of kept going with it. And I thought it would be like something that just like would be really hard to come by at any other point in my life, or just be like one of the more rare chances. So I took it when the stars aligned.
Yeah, Tanzania is pretty rare. And yeah, last but not least, we'll pass it to Ishan.
Yeah, so I actually was living in the Netherlands for my last couple years of high school. And I moved from the Bay Area, and I wasn't really totally sure on what I wanted to do in college and just as a career in general. But I was really interested in design, and I had the opportunity to really go out there and see pain points kind of in real life. And to me, that really humanized the process and made me convinced that this was something I wanted to do full time. And I think more so, it just brought me to a point where I really want to go back out to Europe or somewhere across the world, maybe even Asia, and work there because it really opened up like the horizons on what's possible design wise.
Awesome. Thank you all for the answers. So starting with Kevin on the next question, can you go over the work/intern culture in your respective country, and how does that differ from the US and Canada?
Yeah, I can go into a little bit. Although, so just to clarify, like the company that I work for, is actually like a Canadian startup that operates in Tanzania. So there's some of this like kind of like cross-cultural stuff going on where they hire a lot of local employees, but a lot of the leadership is from Canada. So there's that kind of like melting pot effect. Um, all left to say is like I got to experience some of it, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily representative of the entire country. From the stuff that I did experience, and from talking to my coworkers and stuff, I noticed that like the culture was a lot more like um I guess like for lack of a better word, like authoritarian than I expected, like at least what I was used to. So there's a lot of like respect towards leadership positions and authority. um and so like sometimes it can be difficult to kind of like get people who are not necessarily as like high up in the company to express their opinions. So that was one thing that like I really tried to like encourage, at least in the stuff that I was involved in, to like really try to like facilitate discussions and like ask people directly and try to build relationships, so that people would be more comfortable in expressing their ideas. But that's one thing that I noticed. um yeah.
Cool. Now we'll send the question to Ishan.
Yeah, I think what I really liked about European work culture was really like the work-life balance aspect. I think like over here, it's really common that you get like very little vacation in America, and people are really, it's kind of frowned upon to take time off, whether it be for sick days or something like that. And in Europe, it's much more well-defined in terms of like once it's 5 p.m., they're not going to respond to emails or pick up the phone or anything like that. And I think like especially now, I'm from the Bay Area where things are super competitive, and even in America, like the intern culture is super competitive with all these big companies. So I think it kind of taught me how to just kind of be a little bit more relaxed in the way that I approach things. And I think like intern culture in general isn't really as big because most people really don't do internships. Most companies don't really offer that, and if they do, it's mostly for like graduate students or older, not really for undergrads. So it's a little bit different, but I really liked how, people were much less like competitive and more just easygoing in general.
Awesome. And then now we'll pass the question over to Gracie.
Yeah, so I think this is a case by case basis. A lot of my experience is like anecdotal, so you can take what I say with a grain of salt. But basically, during my time in Norway, similar to Ishan, I think the culture was generally more relaxed. There was definitely more of a prioritization on work-life balance. I know like full-time employees at Cognite, and I think a lot of other companies in Norway, they get a lot of vacation time. For example, they get like a month to 2 months off during the summer to just like relax and travel, or like they have really good health benefits and family benefits as well. As an intern, I worked 9 to 5 usually, but then on Fridays, they would let you go early sometimes. So yeah, it was pretty much similar to like the culture itself was sort of similar to Canada. And my time in Singapore, it was at a design agency. So Eden Speakerman is sort of a European-based design agency. So you do get a trickle of that European culture in the workplace. But I think overall, like, I can't say this for other companies, but like talking to some of the other Singaporeans that I worked with, a lot of the times companies within Singapore are more hierarchical rather than like flat structured. So like Kevin, there's a lot more respect for leadership. So sometimes that might inhibit creativity, and there's usually more work hours involved. But that being said, when I was there, I worked regular 9 to 5 as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for all your answers. So moving on to the next question. Have you noticed a difference in design standards or design trends between your country and the US or Canada? And did you encounter a difference in the mental models, behaviors, and user needs? It's kind of a loaded question, but we'll start out with Giska.
Like before I try to answer the question, I want to show you like an example of what is considered like good or ideal design for an e-commerce like app in both countries like Indonesia or US. And so if you want to see it, I put in the link in the question in the chat. So basically like an interesting difference like in behavior that I noticed was that people in the US like generally prefer a more linear or like straightforward way of communicating, which is like reflected on the design standard, where like people prefer designs that are more cleaner and lets users immediately find what they want to find. Meanwhile, in people in Indonesia or like some of the other Southeast Asian countries are more like willing to learn or like browse, and I guess are like generally more patient in a sense of like trying to navigate through like an interface, which is why like the design standards are more like free form, and they don't really like want to waste space by adding more options and then small images or icons that make the page look busy but still structured. And also like another important thing to like consider is that education in like Indonesia or some of the other like Southeast Asian countries is not as like advanced or accessible for most people compared to like the US. So like having a user friendly and like a well thought out UX writing is so important to like bridge any information gap. Like for example, in my internship at OVO, I'm actually like, creating a marketplace for insurances. And since like the insurance literacy is severely like lacking in Indonesia, I had to like make the like most of the copywriting sound like conversational, so users can like easily understand and don't really get intimidated by the jargon. Yeah, I guess that's it for me.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And yeah, thanks for that example. That's actually really insightful. But yeah, we'll move on to Kevin next. Differences in design standards or design trends?
Yeah, so I didn't work too much on like interface design, although there's honestly not that many like software companies in that area. Most of the software or apps that people will use will be just like from like the West or from China. So that's kind of, I guess, on the software front. But I wanted to talk a little, I guess, a little bit about like what I experienced doing some conversations with users and customers. Like one thing, for instance, was like it was actually kind of, you have to approach like talking to people a bit differently. So we were working on a project where we were trying to understand like household energy usage, because like Jazza Energy does like solar energy, and so like we wanted to talk to the people who would actually be using the electricity during the day, which most of the times like in these like rural areas would be like like mothers and like the children, because the husband is often out in the field doing work. And so those are like the people we want to talk to. But when we approach like any of our customers, right? Like one of the things you actually have to do is you have to kind of like know some of like the cultural, like I guess respect kind of mannerisms. So you can't just talk directly to the anybody aside from the man of the household if you want to talk to them. It's like considered very disrespectful. So you have to kind of go through like the working man. It's very traditional before you can even access like sometimes the users that you want to talk to.
Awesome. Thank you all for your answers. And so for the next question, can you talk about the recruitment process at the company you work at internationally? And what was the visa process like for your country? And we'll start off with Gracie.
Yeah, so for Eden Speakerman, I just applied online and they do hire interns out of their other offices. So I think that's like Berlin and Amsterdam, and they do it year round. The interview process was pretty straightforward. It was just like a portfolio walkthrough. And getting the visa for Singapore was a very long process because I think Singapore is pretty strict with foreign workers because they want to have like a good ratio of like domestic workers versus like international students coming in and working. So you would fill out all the paperwork, but I didn't get the visa. It took like 3 months to get the visa. And afterwards, I think you just like go to the police station. You have to like register, get like a SIN number. And then after that, it was pretty straightforward, but yeah.
Cool. And we'll pass it off to Kevin.
So for the recruitment, I think I mentioned this earlier, but that company actually had like a partnership with with Waterloo. So they're like, I guess, so again, like they're like a Canadian-based company and they had partnerships with the school, and then they were advertising to like our class in particular. So that's kind of how I heard about the company and found about the opportunity. But I guess like, one thing to be said there is like, if you guys are looking for, international experiences, like try to maybe find local companies that might be doing projects abroad and be looking to send people. That could be one way to find opportunities like this. In terms of the visa though, it was like really straightforward. Basically, there was no paperwork beforehand and you just show up and because I came with like somebody from the company, I got like a business visa while I was there.
That's really cool. You didn't have to do any paperwork or anything, but yeah, thanks so much for your answers. This next little section is going to be more about living and working abroad, so less designy questions, but yeah, what did you enjoy most about working in your respective country? And this is really general, so we'll start out with Alice.
Yeah, honestly, it was meeting new people, like specifically in Hong Kong. It's a mix of like Western and Asian cultures. So I met people from like Australia, from like different countries of the world. So I think that was like the most prominent part of like both like working and living in a different country in Hong Kong. And you also get to know the local culture and learn about current events in that place. And you kind of expand like your comfort zone and really push yourself to like go meet new people or go try new experiences. Other than that, I think the work itself was really impactful just because I worked with like special needs students and creating like an inclusive school environment for them. So I think with that would just allowed me to like, it was something that I was already personally interested in, and like actually getting to apply it was something that I enjoyed about working there.
Awesome, yeah. We'll pass it off to Ishan next. What did you enjoy most about working abroad?
Yeah, I think like having lived there for a couple of years, it was really fun because, everything's kind of like Dutch people really just love a reason to party. So it was always really laid back, and there's always events going on and soccer games and stuff like that. So I think it was just really fun to live there. But other than that, I think one of the big characteristics that I really liked was that, people from the Netherlands, Dutch people, they're really direct in the way that they speak with you. And it could be bad, could be good, but I think a lot of times, especially in America, I see that it's like a lot of politics in the way that you speak to people, especially in a company, and in bigger companies, I think it's the most apparent. But I think people in the Netherlands are really clear in that if they want something done, they'll tell you. If they feel a certain way about you, they'll tell you. And I think that, especially when you're younger, you need that brutal honesty to really be able to grow and become better. So yeah, I think that was probably the best thing about the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've heard that a lot about like Dutch people too. But yeah, we'll pass it off to Aman next.
Yeah, so I think there's lots of things that I really enjoyed about working in Norway. At Cognite specifically, I thought a lot of the kind of cultural and social things about Norway also trickled down to the company in a way. So what I mean by that is that it's pretty different from Canada or US. It feels a lot more like teams are very balanced, and it's not like your manager is kind of leading everything. Everyone kind of has a voice in a way. That like, collective mindset I found was apparent in the company. So not only for like social issues and things, but also in your day-to-day work. Especially as an intern, I really felt like I had a voice and I was able to speak up on things, even if it was like at the top level of the company. Like I'd find a way to kind of talk to someone and get connected in that way. So that was really nice. And then as a country as a whole, obviously it's hard to speak about the entire thing, but I find that a lot of the Scandinavian countries with respect to issues like income equality and even like diversity and inclusion are kind of like one step ahead of North America in a lot of ways and are doing really great things. So it's nice to see some of those things there and then be able to bring it back when coming back to North America, whether it's in Canada or US. So yeah, I really enjoyed that in Norway.
Awesome. Love the answers. It really puts like a different perspective on like work culture. So another question we have is, what is the biggest challenge you face while working in design abroad? For example, it could be finances, social life, housing, and even language barriers. Were there any moments of culture shock? Or just in general, are there any big lessons you learned from working in design abroad? And then we're going to hand it off right back to Aman.
Yeah, sure. So actually, one of the first challenges that I faced was around language barrier. Luckily, at Cognite, almost everyone everyone does speak English. In Norway, almost everyone speaks English as well. But in one of the first meetings that I had, what would happen is before and after like meetings, which were in English, people might have like side conversations in Norwegian still. So we were like at a client doing a user interview. And before we started, for like the 5 minutes before the small talk, it was all in Norwegian. And I don't know any Norwegian. And I was sitting there like, what's going on? And I was kind of freaking out. I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, are they roasting me? Are they saying something I should know about the product? You know, like you don't really know in those moments. So that was pretty tough for me. I was able to kind of get around it. I had like great teammates on my team. So I told them pretty openly, like, hey, I would really like it if you could speak in English whenever I'm around, basically. And yeah, that kind of worked out. There were obviously times when people would slip up, but I would just try to keep like reminding them, and everyone was super nice about it. So it didn't end up being a huge problem in the end, but definitely something I think anyone will kind of face when they're on a team with a different language. Yeah.
Awesome. And then we'll send it over to Alice.
Yeah, so for myself, I didn't really have a huge culture shock. Besides the fact that they spoke Cantonese and I only spoke Mandarin, it was hard to communicate, but they also spoke English too. So that wasn't too bad for me, but I know for like different countries, there might be different, like, especially in Asia, like different respect barriers. Like I know in like Korea and Japan, like there's very big, like, I don't know what they're called, but like in work, there's like very different levels and you have to like make sure you're showing respect to your elders or the people who are experienced, like professionals in your field. Other than that, I think like the big life lessons that I got is to really find something that you're passionate about and you're actually like making a positive change in the world and do it, just because like you can really get stuck in like typical American work culture where you're just like improving a product and not really making like, or it doesn't feel like you're making like a huge difference. You want to make sure you kind of like look into other opportunities out there where you feel like you're actually making like a bigger difference rather than just like making more money for a company. Other than that, I think like there's so many opportunities out there for different products and different like technology, especially since like, even though we come from like Canada and the United States, like if you go into other countries, like someone else mentioned, like there's a bunch of different issues that are like, it could range from like poverty to income inequality that we don't have as prevalent here in like the States and in Canada. I think you have like huge ranges of opportunities to like work on products that are like very like impactful and directly impactful into people's lives.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, I think that wraps up the questions that we have for you guys. And I'm just taking a look at the Slido right now. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. So yeah, I'll start out with, so studying abroad versus internship abroad. If you were to choose one, which would you choose and why? And I know Kevin did both. I don't know about the other panelists here, but yeah, if any of you want to take this one, go for it.
Yeah, so I did both. So I did my only international term was in Tanzania, and then I did a study abroad term in Singapore. Although that was cut short because of COVID. That's a tough question. If I had to only pick one, I guess I could talk about like some of the differences. So like I feel like for studying abroad, I went to like Singapore and like a really popular school to do exchange in. So like there were a lot of like exchangers, and I just like hung out with like foreigners most of the time. So I like, I got to experience Singapore, but I felt like I experienced it from a very like outsider perspective. Whereas, like obviously with Tanzania, I'm still experiencing it from an outsider's perspective. But there wasn't like a whole group of like foreigners that I hung out with. I mostly hung out with like my local coworkers, or like I made friends, like local friends more too as well. And so I felt like I got to experience more of like more of just like less of like a foreigner experience. And so yeah, I do would say though, like I got to travel a lot more like during the Singapore term, because like like you can kind of decide like when you want to go to like lectures and stuff, right? So I just like didn't go to a lot of lectures, and then I just traveled. Whereas like for work, you're kind of like restricted to work. So unless you can take days off. So yeah, it depends on your goals.
Yeah, I can build on, but I would say for me, I would definitely choose study abroad. I did both at the same time, but it's kind of like here, like, would you rather be in school and like not have as many responsibilities, or like become an adult and work and like make money and etc. So I feel like if you had the option, or it depends on your own values and like what you want to do, but then I would say just to study abroad, because you get to meet like so many different people. You get to like, you don't have the restraints that you have from work. Like you can travel anywhere you want at any time, since lectures are like give or take, you don't have to go. But essentially, plus you're getting like education from a different country. I feel like that was also something that I really enjoyed, just because it was a little bit different than what I had at like UC San Diego. Like I was taking Hong Kong politics in Hong Kong, like at the peak of their like democracy movement. So I feel like that was just interesting to see and like learn, because you wouldn't have that type of course here in the US. So that's just my take on it, but obviously work is also important.
All right, I guess we can move on to the next question on Slido. So one question that was liked, how did you all apply to these international jobs and internships and find the job postings? LinkedIn is popular here, but what about countries that don't use it?
I can answer this. I personally just applied on LinkedIn, but I know that like specific to the Netherlands, there's like a bunch of kind of like websites just like LinkedIn that just have job postings, like there'll be Indeed or something like that. But I think like going back to the point about like a language barrier, if you don't speak the language, it can be harder, especially on the internet, because a lot of it in these like kind of niche job posting sites are purely in Dutch. So a lot of times you could just, Google Translate it, but it is a little bit hard to see sometimes. And I think in general, they're not as open with hiring foreigners, which I think is a big point. Not that they're like racist or something, but just in general, they're because like the Netherlands is such a small country, people are they're just really trying to create like a culture of like homogenous people. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky to get a job there, but I think the same websites still apply.
I can hop in as well. I mean, my story isn't too as exciting. Like for me, it was through like Waterloo's co-op portal through Waterloo Works. But one thing I did notice while I was there, in Norway, they have like IXDA, which is like a international design organization. And I think there's a couple of these types of design groups which operate around the world. So I would also try to check some of those out, maybe see who's sponsoring their events. Some of them even have job boards. So some like Oslo-based companies might be sponsoring design community events in Oslo. And that might be a good way to figure out which companies are kind of involved in the community. Then you could reach out to someone through that.
I can also like hop on, like for in Indonesia or like most of the like Southeast Asian countries, the like the organization, like design organization, since like design is not really like popular yet, I guess. So there's like a lot of organizations that are really helpful to each other and like really united. So the referral program here is like kind of strong, where you could ask for like referrals by just by like joining the communities. And also like aside from like referrals, you could apply on like job sites like Caliber or like Glassdoor, which is more used rather than LinkedIn, since like LinkedIn is super like saturated, I guess. Yeah.
Cool, yeah. Thanks for all your answers for that. Another popular question in Slido right now is more related to like social life. So in your experience abroad, did you ever feel maybe a bit lonely when you had to work abroad without your close friends or family? And how did you build those connections with new friends and make a new social life when you got there? Does anyone want to take this one?
I can go. Oh, sorry. I guess Alice also had something. But so I was in Singapore alone. So I think my living situation helped a lot. So what I did was I lived actually in like a hostel for 3 months. So there were people coming in and out, sometimes for a few months, sometimes for a few days. So it was nice to meet people that way because they were all coming from abroad. And then other ways to like make connections was obviously like through my coworkers. My coworkers were very welcoming and they made me feel sort of more at home when I was there alone, and they invited me to events. So definitely like talk to your coworkers and try to make friends with them. And then in terms of keeping in touch with people online, Singapore, there's like a 12-hour difference from North America. So I actually didn't really keep in touch with that many people. I did, however, keep in touch with Kevin for the duration of our internship because he was in Tanzania at the time. So he was only 6 hours apart. So yeah.
I think for me, it's not that, or it really depends on like the like people that are around you, just because it's really easy for me because everyone came from like different schools and like different places. So everyone was like already super willing to make friends. So I think the biggest thing is you just have to kind of be proactive, especially if you're like extroverted and you want to be like around people. You have to be proactive and like either looking for friend groups or joining like hobbies that you're interested in, whether it's like sports or like other things, and then you'll be able to like make friends that way. But I think with anywhere, like whenever you move to a new place, it is a bit harder to make friends, but there's always that like period. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't get lucky.
All right, sounds good. One of the other popular questions that we got today, what's the drinking culture like abroad or in Europe? Do you really drink at work?
I guess I can answer that. I think I don't know if people really drink at work that much. It's more like you'll have like happy hours at the end on Fridays usually. And I think that's not really necessarily like unique to Europe. They do that here as well. But in terms of drinking culture, I think it's much more accepted for younger people to drink. At least like in America, obviously it's 21. I think Canada and Montreal, it's like 19, right? But I think in general, people don't look down on you if you drink or anything like that. And specific to the Netherlands, I think, like I said before, everyone just loves like a really big party. And I know like one of the biggest holidays is like King's Day, and everyone wears like the orange color and just like blacks out in the street and it's just like filled with beer. So it's pretty insane. But yeah, I would definitely, I think just for like not just the drinking, but just for like the laid back and party aspect of it, I would definitely recommend people go to Europe and really experience that, because I think that whole culture is like totally different than what you find in America. So yeah.
No one else drink a lot during their
I can
internship?
add, I mean, Norway was pretty similar. Like Cognite kind of operated like an American company. So same thing, like happy hours on Fridays, and some, I guess after work, we'd have drinks and stuff. But one thing I did want to add was that when you're in Europe, it's easy to do like weekend trips. So we got cut short because of COVID, but you'd like fly out Friday evening and then come back Sunday or Monday, and you get a chance to kind of explore different cities, which is really nice. So even if you're in one city, you can also explore the cultures and nightlife across a bunch of different places in 4 months.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to know drinking is like a requirement for going to Europe. But yeah, a follow-up question in the Slido. I guess this is more general, but what are some tips you have for a successful internship? And this could be specific to your experience abroad or just any other internships that you've done. Just because I know a lot of people here are students looking for internships. So yeah, any tips?
Yeah, I would say try to, I mean, this is more like abroad related, but I would say try to like encourage people to like just learn about the culture, the local culture, the working culture. I know I like kind of said some stuff that I guess was like coming from my perspective, right? But I also wanted to like understand, why people think certain ways, um, and kind of why like the working culture is the way it is. And one thing that I also tried to do was like I tried to learn Swahili, um, and like I was really bad at Swahili, but it was just like an easy way to bond with my coworkers, because it was like, okay, this guy's like he's at least trying to like learn about the culture, and I think they appreciated that. Um, and I don't know, I found it easy. So yeah, I would say just try to learn a little bit about the culture while you're there.
I'd definitely say like just generally, you're not gonna have that much time in your whole internship experience. So you really have to find ways to optimize that, especially considering you're gonna be like onboarding for like a couple weeks and just getting to know like your product or whatever. So I would definitely say like set goals for yourself really early on, and like what are the actionable items you can do to get there. And like set certain milestones that like if you're going to be able to achieve that. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be like a design goal or something. It can be even as simple as, make a friend at work, or learn learner culture, or learn the language. And those kind of goals will help you to really determine if your internship was successful. Because a lot of times, you might only have 3 months and you're like, okay, what did I really learn in this? And it might be a lot, it might be a little, but having these goals can really help you like crucially reflect at the end.
All right, and I think that concludes our It's a Small Design World panel. So thank you all so much for answering all these questions. Before we end it today, we're just gonna go over some upcoming events. So for people from DECO, we have our Design Frontiers coming up. It's gonna be sponsored by Fjord. So it's gonna be a 4-day long event, and it's a great way to gain experience in applying the design process to problems that go beyond the scope of a classroom. And not to mention, the winning teams will get a prize. So it's gonna be really sick. You don't need any experience to join us. Some important dates are for the 19th of May is the end of registration. Kickoff starts on the Thursday, which is May 20th, and then submissions close on the 23rd. judging and the prize giving will be on the 27th. So we hope to see y'all there. I think people are sending the links in. So check us out and hope to see everyone there again. Yeah.
Cool. And from the UWX side, UWX is excited to collaborate with Conrad next Thursday, May 20th. And Conrad is a global digital agency and innovation firm that helps the world's top companies succeed in the digital age. Join us next Thursday, 5 p.m. to learn about the day in the life of the Conrad design team and their experience in the industry, featuring 3 senior product designers, as well as Conrad design careers featuring a design recruiter from Conrad. So yeah, come out if you're on the hunt for your next internship or wondering what it's like to work for a digital agency. And yeah, feel free to find the link or registration link through our Facebook event. But yeah.
And last but not
Also, no, you go for it.
Stay tuned for our next UWX and Design Co collab on Thursday, June 3rd. Mark your calendars and stay tuned on our socials for more details. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. We're not going to tell y'all what's going to happen just yet, but we hope to see everyone there. So yeah, stay tuned. Thank y'all so much for coming to this event.
Thank you. And thank you to all our panelists for your amazing insights and answers to the questions. Hopefully this is really helpful to people. I know I learned a lot. Yeah, hopefully other people learned a lot too. Should I play some outro music? Here, let me.
Let's do it.
Can you guys hear it? I love the suspense for the June 3rd.
Gotta add it.
Y'all gotta come to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right, I think that's just our 2 orgs left. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, nice work.
Good job, everyone.